Welcome to NFL Nexus. You know, every team in the league faces tough choices in the offseason, but every now and then a team hits a moment, a series of decisions that can literally define the next decade of the franchise. And right now, the Indianapolis Colts are staring right at one of those moments. They are at a crossroads, and they have to make some massive, high-stakes financial bets that are going to determine everything. We're talking contender or a total rebuild. So today, we're going to break down every single angle of this fascinating puzzle. And it all comes down to this, right? This is the age-old question for any GM. Do you go all in and pay to win right now? Or do you play the long game and build for sustained success down the road? For the Colts, this isn't some philosophical debate. It is a brutal dollars and cents reality hitting them right now. They've got cornerstone players, guys who are winning them games on Sunday, and they're about to become free agents. But at the same time, the front office knows, if you overpay for today's stars, you can absolutely mortgage your future, leaving you with zero cap space to build a complete team. It's a high-wire act, and their entire future is hanging in the balance. All right, let's really get into the nitty-gritty of this whole pressure cooker situation. See, the Colts aren't just making these tough choices in a vacuum. No, they are up against a ticking clock. The NFL calendar is about to flip over to a new league year, and before that happens, they are being forced into making these multi-million-dollar choices about the very heart of their offense. And these are choices that come with immense risk and maybe even greater consequences. And that clock is ticking loudly. They have until March 3rd to use the franchise tag. Now, if you're not familiar, the tag is one of the most powerful and controversial tools a front office has. It basically lets a team say, nope, you're not leaving, and lock down a player for one more year. The catch? It's at a premium, fully guaranteed salary, usually the average of the top 5 salaries at his position. It's a way to buy yourself more time, but man, it comes at a very, very steep price. This deadline pressure really brings us to the absolute core of the problem. And the two guys at the center of this storm, quarterback Daniel Jones and wide receiver Alec Pierce. We are talking about a combined potential franchise tag cost of over $71 million for one season. These aren't just some good players. These guys are foundational pieces of the Colts offense. They're the engine. And right now, both of them could just walk out the door, sign with a rival, and the Colts would be left with massive holes on their roster and get absolutely nothing in return. So let's just frame this up, because it is a classic team-building dilemma. On one side, you have Daniel Jones, the quarterback who, after years of searching, finally brought some stability and high-level play to the single most important position in all of sports. You just can't win in the NFL without that guy. But on the other side, you have Alec Pierce, a player who has become arguably the most explosive and efficient big play weapon in the entire league. A true game changer. Now, ideally you keep both, of course you do. But the brutal reality of the salary cap means you can't always have your cake and eat it too. It forces painful choices. Let's start with the quarterback, because everything, and I mean everything in the NFL, starts there. After that revolving door of vets after Andrew Luck retired, the Colts took a calculated gamble. They signed Daniel Jones to a 1-year, $14 million prove-it deal, and boy oh boy did he prove it. Before he had that awful injury, he was putting together one of the best quarterbacking seasons this franchise has seen in a very, very long time. He looked poised, he looked efficient, he looked like the long-term answer they had been so desperately searching for. And the numbers here, they really tell the story. I mean, over 3,100 yards and 24 total touchdowns in just 13 games. That is fantastic production. That career-best completion percentage, that shows you he's not just making plays, he's getting more efficient. And those 5 rushing touchdowns, that's that dual-threat ability that drives defenses crazy. The on-field performance was everything they could have wanted. So why isn't a long-term deal done? Well, the problem, according to all the reports, is that his fantastic season has priced him into a whole new stratosphere. His agent is looking for a top-of-the-market deal, and the Colts, maybe a little worried about the injury and the small sample size, are apparently nowhere close to that number. And this number you see right here, this is the massive cost of just kicking the can down the road for one more year. Almost $44 million for one season of football. Just let that sink in. That is a franchise-altering number. For that kind of money, you could sign 2 Pro Bowl-level starters somewhere else on your team. So slapping the tag on Jones secures your QB for 2026, sure, but it comes at an enormous opportunity cost. It would severely limit their ability to fix the defense or the offensive line or anything else. And that huge potential cost for the quarterback creates this massive ripple effect that flows directly into the dilemma around his number one target, Alec Pierce. Look, this isn't just about losing a good receiver. Pierce has evolved into something special. He's a truly unique and devastating weapon. He's not just a deep threat. You could make a very strong case that he is the premier deep threat in the entire National Football League. What's so amazing about this slide isn't just the raw numbers, it's the insane efficiency and the fact that his production seems to be totally quarterback-proof. Leading the league in yards per catch one time is impressive. Doing it 2 years in a row, that's elite territory. But the most incredible fact on this screen, the one that makes GMs and scouts just drool, is that he's done all this while catching passes from 5 different starting quarterbacks in 2 seasons. That level of consistency, no matter who is throwing him the football, that's almost unheard of. It tells you everything you need to know about his individual talent. Now, his franchise tag number is cheaper than Jones's, but it's still over $27 million, which is elite money for a receiver. So here's the inescapable math of the situation. The Colts simply cannot afford to use the franchise tag on both guys. It would cost over $71 million against their salary cap for just 2 positions. You can't do it. It would completely cripple their budget. It would prevent them from doing anything else. So they are being forced to make a strategic choice to prioritize one cornerstone over the other. Okay, but while all this high-stakes contract drama is grabbing all the headlines, the real, grinding work of team building is happening behind the scenes. See, the Colts front office is operating on 2 tracks at once. They're just down the road at the NFL Combine, and the work they're doing there is directly connected to everything we just talked about. They're laying the groundwork for the future, scouting the next wave of talent that could provide cheap solutions to their very expensive problems. And this brings us to a name you are gonna wanna remember: Keelan Rutledge. This is what smart front offices do. They aren't just obsessed with keeping the guys they already have. They're constantly looking for cost-effective answers to future problems. And this guy, Rutledge, a powerful offensive lineman from Georgia Tech, could be a very, very important piece of that puzzle for the Colts. So let's just look at his profile. I mean, he's got the ideal size. 6'4", 330 pounds. He looks the part. The stat that just jumps off the page at you is allowed 0 sacks in 2025. Perfect pass protection. You love to see that. But the thing that makes him so interesting for this Colts team, specifically, is that last bullet point: versatility. He's mainly a guard, but he has experience at center, and with their backup center, Danny Pinter, about to become a free agent, that kind of flexibility is worth its weight in gold. And this quote right here, this is the proof that the interest is real. You have to understand, at the Combine, teams get a very limited number of what they call formal meetings. These aren't just quick chats in a hallway. These are serious, in-depth interviews. They're breaking down film. The fact that the Colts use one of their precious few formal meeting slots on Keelan Rutledge, that is a massive signal that he is very, very high on their draft board. Okay, so how do these two things connect? How does re-signing a star quarterback have anything to do with scouting a college kid who plays guard? Well, this is where the genius or the potential failure of team building really lies. Every single decision is connected. It's a chain reaction. To really get it, we've got to look at the Colts' offensive line, the 5 guys whose job it is to protect the quarterback. As you can see, the left side is rock solid. You've got an all-pro in Quentin Nelson and a solid tackle in Bernard Ryman. The center, Tanner Bortolini, also looks good to go. But the entire right side of that line is a huge question mark, and it all hinges on the contract of one guy, their veteran right tackle, Braden Smith. This slide right here does an amazing job of showing the domino effect. Let's just walk through this, because it's a perfect example of NFL strategy. Okay, scenario 1. The Colts find the money, they extend Braden Smith. Great. He stays at right tackle, Goncalves stays at right guard, the line is set. In that world, drafting a guy like Rutledge is a luxury. But now, look at scenario 2. They can't afford Smith, maybe because they just broke the bank for Daniel Jones, so they have to let him walk. Now what? Well, they're forced to slide their right guard, Goncalves, over to tackle, which creates a gaping hole at right guard. And in that world, a prospect like Keelan Rutledge isn't just an interesting player. He becomes a critical, high-value target they might need to start on day 1. And this is really the key to this whole thing. The financial decision they make on Braden Smith is directly tied to the decisions on Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce. Every single $1 million they spend on that star quarterback is $1 million they cannot spend on their veteran right tackle. And that, in turn, completely changes their needs heading into the NFL draft. It makes a player like Rutledge transform from a maybe death piece into a potential day 1 starter. See? It's all connected. So, this brings us all the way back to where we started. That big question. How does a team choose between its present and its future? But now, we have a much clearer, much more detailed picture of the incredible stakes that are involved here for the Indianapolis Colts. This right here is the strategic tightrope that every NFL GM has to walk. It's a three-step dance. First, you make those gut-wrenching, emotional decisions on which of your current stars you can actually afford to pay. Then, step 2, you have to soberly assess the damage. You look at the aftermath, see where those big contracts blow up your salary cap, and you identify the new holes on your roster. And then finally, step 3, you go into the draft with a new mission. You're not just looking for the best player available, you are laser-focused on the specific guys who can plug those holes you just created and do it on a cheap 4-year rookie deal. It's a constant, never-ending cycle. And this is the final, ultimate question that the Colts front office is probably debating in a room right this very second. There's no easy answer. There's no spreadsheet that can give you the right choice. Do you prioritize the star quarterback who scores the touchdowns, the face of the franchise? Or the elite receiver who makes those explosive plays? Or do you take a more foundational approach and you prioritize the big guy on the offensive line whose job it is to protect that multi-million-dollar investment? The path they choose here is going to define their championship window for the next 5 years. So that's our deep dive into the Colts' huge offseason crossroads. It's just a fascinating puzzle, and there are no easy answers. So what do you think they should do? Should they prioritize Jones at all costs, tag Pierce, or do you let one of them walk to make sure the offensive line is secure? Let us know what your strategy would be down in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this in-depth breakdown, do us a favor and subscribe to NFL Nexus and like this video so you don't miss our next one. And finally, a really quick way you can help support the channel is by checking out our coloring books. They're perfect for children, grandchildren, and honestly, adults too. They're a really fun way for fans of all ages to just unwind. You can find them by using the link in the description, or you can just scan the QR code that's on your screen right now. Every purchase really helps us continue to make deep dive content just like this. Thanks for watching.